Thank you. And Ahmed, I've been really waiting and wanting to really hear from you, being an expert on talent management. Tell me, for somebody who is, because our audience is most of the time is coaches and mentors,
Yep.
in organizations, how talent management is managed? How does it work?
Sure. Very good question. So I'll start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need talent management actually in the workplace?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
talent management is putting processes to ensure that we are hiring, developing, and retaining the talent that we have in the organization.
Okay.
As much as possible, eliminating subjectivity. So the more
Mm.
processes you put in place, the more we will have the talent retained, developed, engaged in the organization. Two big, in my point of view, two big success factors in the talent management. One
Mm-hmm.
very important is ideally, if you are a talent management person, you should have had a generalist experience, which is because the talent management is all about processes, designing theories. And if you
Mm.
haven't seen that theory
Mm.
happening on ground, it will be a very theoretical exercise. In my point of view, and I've seen a lot of organizations, the specialists are very good technically, but the reality when it happens and when it touches the ground, and it's not really doable. Second
Mm.
important big skill in talent management that I think the
Mm.
market needs is the tailoring skills or the consulting mindset, or I would say the customizing skills. Because
Mm.
I give a good example about Mercedes engine
Mm.
cannot be put in Honda engine. So
Mm.
even if Mercedes is one of the best engines in the world, in my point of view, and one of the best cars, their engine needs to be customized to be put in Honda. So
All right.
getting a person from a company who has great talent management processes does not guarantee that this would work in the organization that they join. And my
Mm.
advice to everyone who hires talent management is they get a consulting mindset. An off the
Mm.
shelf product wouldn't work. You can always
Mm.
Google. AI can give you the best process in talent management now. But the reality is, every organization has a DNA. And we need to
Right.
respect that DNA big time. And we need to respect the culture as well of the organization, the maturity level, their vision, where they are. So a lot of questions you need to answer before you just implement a process. So these are two big factors in talent management. And then it's all about trial and error, vision,
Mm.
design, and all that. So we design, we make sure that we put the vision of tomorrow, but we do not forget the vision of today. Because I mean, what's the best about you? And you're based in UAE. What's best about
Right.
UAE? The roads here. So
Right.
whoever designed the roads long time ago, they actually put into consideration the future of this country. They didn't do it for like the coming 2 years only. So they put
Right.
the vision of tomorrow, and in addition to that, they did
Mm.
not forget today, which is
Mm.
very important. The issue with a lot of designs in the processes is people would want to transform everything tomorrow, and then they forget the level of capabilities of the organization. And
Right.
what happens is you realize after 2 years that this design is a bit exaggerated or a bit stretched, and then you redesign again and you get another person again. So, in my point of view, we need to have a consulting mindset in such processes, especially we are dealing with people, and people are very unpredictable in general. So
Mm.
it's not a process of like 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's never 1 plus 1 equals 2.
Mm. And what do you think consulting mindset? Tell me a little bit more about how who should have that consulting mindset and how should you develop one?
Sure. So it's a skill, in my point of view. Are you that
Mm-hmm.
rigid of a person that
Mm-hmm.
whatever you have learned, you want to just apply regardless of the context? So that
Mm-hmm.
I've been hiring a lot of people, senior
Mm-hmm.
people as well in my previous roles. And some people they struggle in some organizations, though they were doing very well in their previous organizations. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
behind that is they are not as flexible when we
Mm-hmm.
get them. So when you get someone in an organization, not enough they were great at their roles. They need
Right.
to also adapt to the organization they're joining. They need to
Mm-hmm.
have the proper diagnosis. They listen before they act. I have
Mm-hmm.
seen organizations spend a lot of money in getting the best people left, right, and center. Half
Mm-hmm.
of them actually struggle with the
Mm-hmm.
current organization that they're joining, or
Mm-hmm.
with the organization they join, because they don't have this consulting mindset, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you are in a design job. Talent management is all about designing processes for the organization to excel. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want to execute, we will put you on the track and that's it. But if we are getting you to design, then you need to come up with a proper design that would suit the current
Hmm.
organization's culture, DNA,
Hmm.
capabilities, and this and that. So the
Hmm.
diagnosis is extremely important, and the flexibility of
Hmm.
making sure that it's not a one-sided track of people. So this is
Hmm.
what I mean by consulting.
Right. So an effective diagnosis is only possible when you have a consultative mindset. Yeah, you really get to the ground and understand what is the requirement today, and what's the future vision, and able to really put together a plan. So, tell me, what does that strategy would look like when you create a talent management strategy or a plan? What does that really look like?
Sure. So I think number one is of this organization.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this organization want to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a business vision is extremely important so that you put your people processes parallel to it. So if you're
Right.
not aware where this business is heading, that is a big showstopper. Secondly, current processes assessment. What do they have? So what does this organization have? So you start diagnose and you start assess every people process in the organization,
Hmm.
not stopping at that. There is a big factor in it, which is the capabilities of the people.
Hmm.
Where are they? So I will never give a Ferrari car to someone who barely drives. So I mean,
Hmm.
to me, it's very important that I also know where these people are, so that I put a process in place that would transition from the current process into a new one, but it cannot be as fast if the capabilities are not matching that speed.
Right.
So these
Right.
are three angles, in my point of view, very important when you come up with a talent management strategy. Then the
Hmm.
areas of learning and development strategy, how to come up with that, and I can tell you a lot about it.
Hmm.
Then you identify high potential, you revamp the performance management, and in addition to that, succession planning, which comes as a very important business process that you
Hmm.
need to do so that you make sure that you have the pipeline for the future. Uh,
Right. So,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. So, what I'm thinking is that a strategy should be what you said is first understanding the vision of the organization, understanding the processes that organization has at the moment, and then also really understanding the capability. Because as I learned from you, that not a Mercedes engine in a Honda car. That's how it is if the capabilities are not correctly assessed. And so, strategy is developed, right, keeping all of this in mind. Now, how does execution work? So I think L&D comes into role, and tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. So I would start with L&D because it is one big part.
Hmm.
You usually look at L&D at three levels. So you
Okay.
look at the organizational level. What does this organization need fully, the whole
Hmm.
people to develop? Sometimes
Hmm.
it's a vision. We need to go from X to Y. And
Hmm.
this X, Y is for the whole organization. So you
Right.
agree on an organization wide learning and development topics to be
Hmm.
given to the organization, maybe on a span of 3 years.
Hmm.
It can be like in 3 years' time, we will teach people one, two, three, four. AI, for example, now is like it's the trend everywhere.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
have my reservation on that, and I'll come to you later on it. But
Hmm. Hmm.
AI is one of a great example. Another example would be strategic priorities. So I mean, we wanna teach people, or we wanna make people learn one, two, three, four. This is a
Hmm.
company wide. Then you go a bit down, so it's like a
Hmm.
funnel technique or a pyramid. Then you
Hmm.
go down, which is the functional
Hmm.
capabilities. So
Hmm.
finance fully, they need to develop one, two, three, four, regardless where
Right.
the level is. So HR fully, they need to develop one, two, three, four. So you go
Hmm.
from organization, then you go to function, and then the most important part, which is the personalized individual plan for
Hmm.
every person. And this where comes the competency model plays a big factor, the
Hmm.
behavioral part, technical part, and a plan in place.
Hmm.
Two types of plans, and I have seen in my experience, I've seen a supermarket approach, and I call it a supermarket approach, which is you get a calendar, you pick a couple of trainings, and then you go, and that's it.
Hmm.
My point of view, not cost
Hmm.
effective,
Hmm.
not focused, and it was proven. And as I'm sure you know that people when attend the course
Hmm.
a week and then they forget.
All
So
right.
literally, so that's why the new way of doing training and development is more into the learning by doing and the learning by getting coached and the training and development, which is
Hmm.
the 70-20-10. This is a very I've seen that working in my previous organizations, and I think it's the best model so far. It
Hmm.
divides from the classroom training to three areas, which
Hmm.
is you learn
Hmm.
driving not in a class, you learn driving by driving in the street. So
Right.
we give you tasks and projects the whole year to develop this specific competency that we've identified. In
Hmm.
addition to that, you go into the coaching and learning from others.
Hmm.
coach for you to develop you in that specific competency. In addition, the last bit, which the 10%, the training and development, can it be a course, can be a video I watch, can be an online thing, can be a book I read. So that 70-20-10 approach is very cost effective and is extremely effective when it comes to the real effect behind what I develop. Ideal, what do I need to develop personally? One behavioral, so that's the ideal scenario. One behavioral, one technical for today, and ideally, if I'm moving and if I'm aspiring, one for tomorrow. So if I want to reach the CEO level, what do I need to develop on that? So that's the ideal scenario of an IDP. But we're very open to two for now, three, all of them for now. Three are, but more than three areas, we would be not, we would be fooling ourselves really. If we not focus on more three, because still you're working,
Right.
actually having all the time to develop. You're also having achievements and you need to develop. So
Right.
in my point of view, these are the three L&D strategies. Then start feeding in that with the right information, talking to the right stakeholders as well.
And I think talk to the right stakeholder is throughout the process, as you said, as a consultative mindset, right? Throughout the
Absolutely.
process. Yeah. So org wide, functional, and people level learning and development strategy, and then 70-20-10 approach, 70 on the job, 20 coaching and mentoring, and 10% you think is through the
Training and
formal training
yes.
development. Great. And then, so how do you, because what we've noticed in the organizations that people are nominated and enrolled and they're told to attend and to learn, but it becomes like an event for them. Especially I'm talking about that 10% of the training, formal training. How do you ensure that people proactively take participation in really attending and learning and applying the learning?
Very good question. So if it was a supermarket approach, I definitely agree. It was very difficult to measure ROI. It was very difficult to make sure that people, and you start feel that it's like a show and people are going, seeing the show and then they leaving. But the 70-20-10, the beauty of it is very specific. Saeed needs to develop business acumen. Work this year on 1, 2, 3, 4. He will get coached by Dr. Sayed on business acumen on the sessions, and he will attend a financial course. And this, to make sure this is getting the best ROI, it is part of the performance management. And this is
Oh,
where the
yes.
performance management comes. So the more this is documented, the more this is playing a part in your evaluation year end, the more people will actually abide by it. And
Right.
I wouldn't say every organization's capability maturity level is the same. Some organizations I worked in, what I'm telling you is actually happening really. And I have seen other organizations, they have just topics and it's not really lived. And that's why the more you put it into the DNA of the organization and the more you make sure that the leaders are hosting and the coach, the mentor, and this and that, it becomes the language.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that is the DNA, right?
Yes, 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 absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and how 70% on the job learning opportunities, how are they kind of integrated in the learning and development plan?
Sure. So ideally, if you want to kill two birds with one stone, as the English people say, you would put whatever you have as an objectives this year, business objectives, to link it with the development area. So by that, you make sure, because I'm here to achieve 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the reason of my existence in the organization. If you ensure that what I achieved 1, 2, 3, 4 is actually linked to my development area, then we're good. Then that's it. So I mean, everyone is happy. The organization is happy, and I'm developing in parallel.
So it's yeah, two birds with one stone.
Yes. So ideally, I sit with my line manager at the beginning of the year. I ask him, what do you want me to achieve this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If any of them not touching my development area, and I still tell him, you know what, you told me to develop the business acumen. I don't see any objective this year that is touching on my business acumen. Then he puts me in a project with the finance people as an HR person and to become one of my objectives. The more your objectives are actually part of the 70%, the more you secure the learning.
So you think 70% on the job, and that's how development is associated. What I'm thinking now is, now it is easier for organization to associate or link it with performance management system, right? So tell me how organizations should really tie in their talent management and learning and development strategy with the individual's performance. What's the process for that?
Say more. So tell me more about that. So I don't get
So
the question. Yeah.
so the question is that performance management and learning and development, they're kind of tied together,
Yes.
so that we are able to measure the individual. How organization can tie that together, their learning agenda and the performance management?
Yes. So I've seen types of organizations in performance management. I've
Right,
seen an organization that only assesses the what of the person, which is set of KPIs, set of achievements, 1 + 1 = 2, and that's it. Thank you so much. And I've
right,
seen other organizations, they split the what and how, and they give percentage to each.
right,
So the how is like the competency model. I mean, the competencies that they are rated on. I've seen
hmm,
70/30, I've seen 80/20, and you can always play with that based on what? The consulting
hmm,
mindset. So
right,
based on what you actually diagnose, you
hmm,
understand the DNA of every organization, and accordingly you put the weightage as you see.
hmm,
I have seen the training and development plan, which is the ITP, the 70/20/10, you get rated on. And I have
hmm,
seen organizations, they don't need to do that because it's already part of DNA. So
hmm,
this is where you test
hmm,
and you diagnose, is this person really, like, is this organization really a development organization? If it's a development organization, then no need to put it in your performance management because everyone talks that language.
right,
I have seen other organizations, this needs to be embedded in the rating. They need to have a 20% rating on how they have achieved this year on the training and development.
hmm.
So it's also based on, again, I am very much a believer of the consulting and the diagnosis mindset before you just put an off the shelf solution.
And so when we're implementing the strategy that we made for talent management and L&D, what do you think is a resource? I mean, how coaches and mentors can become resource for you, in reaching that goal?
Absolutely. So let me tell you first, in my point of view, and I'm sure you're the best in that, what's the difference between coaching and mentorship?
Mm-hmm.
So a coach is usually a shorter term
Hmm.
on skill gap or a performance gap or a competency that I need to develop. The
Hmm.
mentor is a lot longer term. A mentor
Hmm.
is someone who can talk to you about the growth, about
Hmm.
your future, and its majority of it is actually senior people. Coach
Hmm.
might not be a senior
True.
person. He is a person that develops you in a specific certain competency that you needed or a
Hmm.
situation that you need to solve and this and that. So
Hmm.
these two are very much needed in organizations in general.
Hmm.
And I think they are in every stage in the life cycle of the employee. I'll
Hmm.
start by the induction, the onboarding.
Hmm.
Someone has joined an organization new. We
Hmm.
assign a body
Hmm.
internally for this person so that he is the mentor of this person, and it might not be a senior person. In
Hmm.
reality, it is someone who's a peer who
True.
takes and holds the hands of this person. So this is a start of a mentorship. Then if we
Hmm.
talk about the 70/20/10 and the training and development, Ahmed Saied needs to develop 1, 2, 3, 4. Then
Hmm.
start looking in the organization who is actually good in the 1, 2, 3, 4, and
Hmm.
start shadow this person and get coached by this person.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
we're not stopping at that. The graduate programs, and this is
Hmm.
one, and it's in the UAE very famous because of the national focus on the UAE nationals. You assign a mentor senior for these people the moment they join the organization until they reach where they are. Because ideally, you want these people to be nurtured differently. So
Hmm.
you want these people to come to have a faster approach to run and to be leaders in the future. That's why
Hmm.
you assign mentors. Then we
Hmm.
go into the high potential people. Once you assess a high potential person, you need someone to coach these people. And this is
Right.
where external coaching can play a part because
Hmm.
usually
Hmm.
these are your Messi and Ronaldo in the
Hmm.
organization. And you have
Hmm.
a Messi and Ronaldo, you need
Hmm.
also someone externally to be put in a place where they feel rewarded, they feel
Hmm.
that they are spent money on.
Hmm.
It's also a message. Yeah.
Hmm.
Not stopping at that. Leaders in the organization, I am fully pro getting an external coach for them, not an internal
Hmm.
one. Even if I'm an HR person and I claim I'm good in coaching, I would get someone externally. And the reason
Hmm.
behind that, they will be more open
All
to
right.
someone externally versus someone internally because they need to have solutions for problems they don't actually share.
All right.
Yeah. So, in my point of view, coaching and mentorship is extremely important and it's in the life cycle of every person the moment they join until they retire. And
Right.
it's
Right.
becoming more important. Previously, it
Hmm.
wasn't like that. So,
Hmm.
there is this, I would say, awareness
Hmm.
these days about the coach and the mentorship.
Right. And I think that's a great point you made, that you would rather have an external coach or a mentor than an internal one, is because of they don't share.
but not for everyone. I talk about the senior ones in a way.
Right. Of course. So you would want to invest in people. A, they're hypo. B, they're senior.
Yes.
Right. So do you have in process right now? I mean, a process of hiring coaches. Is there a way that you have established, or how do you do it?
I'm only 6 months. Talking about me personally now,
Hmm.
I'm only 6 months in the organization. We are in the diagnosis slash design slash execution. We haven't
Hmm.
the maturity level of I've seen the whole organization now and that. So I have
Hmm.
started by revamping the performance management system. I have
Hmm.
used high potential assessment for phase one, which is UAE
Hmm.
nationals, and not
Hmm.
all the UAE nationals. So I split them into two. And then I
Hmm.
go into the high potential assessment for the rest and the
Hmm.
senior leaders gap analysis as well.
Hmm.
Because it's very important that before I assign anyone, any coach, I need to know what do they lack and what they're
Right.
good at. So we're
Right.
working on that. Once
Hmm.
you assess, I will be able to see the organization differently in a way.
Hmm.
I'll be able to see who actually requires what and
Hmm.
who is worth the investment as well. And this is a very good, important question. You don't want
Right.
to invest in everyone because you might find out that you have invested wrongly in someone that he lacks that behavior or he lacks that
Right.
drive or this and that. Again, the consulting, the diagnosis is extremely important before you come up with a solution. I don't
Right.
want to manufacture a car that
Hmm.
everyone would drive. I don't want to
Hmm.
manufacture a car that no one would drive. And by the way, it's very easy because people join organization and then stay a couple of years, 3 years, and then they can move. And by the
Hmm.
time you move, they will find out that the car cannot be driven. And I have
Right.
seen that in very big organizations. People come 2 and 3 years, they implement stuff, and then you realize that this car is not able to be driven later on.
Hmm.
So it's your credibility at the end. It's you building your a legacy in where you are. So
Right. Right. And therefore you want to be really careful and have that consultative mindset and diagnosis done correctly so that you have the right methodology for the right result.
absolutely.
And I'm now curious to hear about high potential.
Yes.
How do you work on high potential? How do you gather that data? How do you work on it?
So potential assessment is very tricky. And the
Hmm.
reason behind it is very tricky, it is a future-based speculation. So
Right.
so big difference between the performance and potential. Performance
Hmm.
is about today.
Hmm.
It's easier to assess. You put set of KPIs, I say that Ahmed Said is good in this. But
Hmm.
when I say Ahmed Said is a high potential, that
Hmm.
is we're talking about in the future. If this
Hmm.
person grows, he will succeed. And
Hmm.
this is where it comes the difference, and it's very important for you because ideally, why do you want to identify high potential? You want to build leaders of the future. So
Hmm.
when you say that Dr.
Hmm.
Said is a high potential, you
Hmm.
are actually talking about the future of Dr. Said. And this
Hmm.
is where it is very tricky. People
Hmm.
confuse performance and potential, and in my point of view, they're very different. And I'll give
Hmm.
you one fact as per Gartner,
Hmm.
every seven high performers, only one high potential.
Hmm.
So being a high performer is not reality, is not really guaranteeing you that you're a high potential. And this is
Right.
where comes the difficulty of assessing the high potential. I have
Hmm.
seen organizations manage it through the line manager recommendation. So I ask the
Hmm.
line manager, is this person a high potential, medium potential, low potential? Then they tell you. I've seen
Hmm.
organizations putting psychometric testing so that they can get the best out of that because again, it's future.
Right.
And I've seen the 9 box grid. I'm sure you're aware of it. So
Hmm.
the nine
Hmm.
box grid is actually one of the tools that we use in organizations to identify whether this person is a high, medium, low.
Hmm.
I think high potential, the 9 box grid requires high maturity of line managers
Right.
because there will be a lot of subjectivities in placing a person in such a box.
Right.
What is the potential consisting of? Three big questions:
Hmm.
aspiration, ability, and engagement. Is this person able to grow? That's one question.
Hmm.
So if we give him
Hmm.
responsibilities and complex challenges, is
Hmm.
he able to take it on? That's one.
Hmm.
Secondly, is this person aspires to grow? Because he
Right.
might not be aspiring to grow. This person might be have a ceiling and he's happy. And by the way, no harm. So
Right.
I mean, we absolutely love these people. These people are great performers in the organization.
Hmm.
And then the third question is this person engaged now? Because
Hmm.
you are going to be investing a lot on this person. If this person is not engaged today, so the more I give him, he will not be taking because so the three buckets of the potential are aspiration, ability, and engagement.
Hmm.
The 9 box grid, in my point of view, can be a bit confusing. We have
Hmm.
a bit from that. And we are only now talking about potential. We put a prerequisite. You need to be a high performer to be part of the equation. So you make
Right.
sure now that they are performers. And then
Right.
what you do after is the following. You start giving the line manager set of questions that would
Hmm.
help them identify whether this person is a high, medium, or low.
Hmm.
Organizations now is moving away from the word high, medium, and low. And the reason is it is very discriminating. So if
Hmm.
I feel I'm a low potential, then I'm gone. You know,
Hmm.
we have named it differently. Some organization call it boost, accelerate. So
Hmm.
these are the words that is easily digested by people in the
Right.
organization. Once you do that, in my point of view, you need to add the science into the place. So the
Hmm.
line manager recommendation is extremely important, where you give them the questionnaire and you assess high, medium, low, where it boost, develop, whatever we call it, and then we
Hmm.
move into the science. Why do you
Hmm.
need science?
Hmm.
Science helps you because we talk about the future anyways, and we
Right.
are not storytellers or fortune tellers. So I mean,
Hmm.
what happens is the following: science would give you a bit of confidence in the results. If
Hmm.
you rely only on science, I don't agree because science can be a bit misleading. Do you rely
Hmm.
only on line manager's assessment? I don't agree. The best
Right.
approach, in my point of view, in my 25 years of experience, is a blended approach.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
give weightage
Hmm.
and you put it in a blender and you come up with an answer, or
Hmm.
you give it 70-30 or 30-70, again, back to the consulting mindset and based on
Right.
the abilities of every organization.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
in a nutshell, it is a blended approach where you
Hmm.
measure the potential by science and by the line manager input.
Here is a question. So tell me a little bit about science that you're talking about.
Yes.
How do we get there? Yeah.
Okay. So I have seen vendors like
Hmm.
Corn Ferry, one of the best,
Hmm. Hmm.
Saville, one of the
Hmm.
best. I currently use them, and
Hmm.
Hogan. So these
Hmm.
are the four so far, and I'm sure there is a lot.
Right.
In my experience, and I've seen these four. And
Hmm.
these four can give you good result on the future of this person, how will they perform.
Hmm.
And not only that, so a beauty about Savile, for example, they actually tell you whether this person is good in people leadership or in functional leadership or in strategic leadership. So it
Hmm.
actually divides the potential into three areas so that
Hmm.
you are able to use a person in strategic leadership in a CEO role. Or a
Hmm.
functional person would be in an operation director role, or a
Hmm.
people leader role like a sales job,
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
senior job. So it
Right.
helps you as well segregate the
Hmm.
result into three areas. You
Hmm.
take that, you
Hmm.
accompany it or you marry it to the line manager's assessment, then it
Hmm.
comes a result at the end. So, but is it a final result? No.
Hmm.
You being a high potential does not guarantee you anything. And this is
Hmm.
extremely important. And I'll talk
Right.
about that in the future. In the moment when we talk about there are also mistakes we do.
Hmm.
There are mistakes we do in the high potential assessments, and I have seen a lot of mistakes myself, and I have done them myself as well.
Hmm. So assessment is done, and now tell me what are the mistakes that you find
Sure.
sometimes.
So, firstly, confusing performance with potential. A lot of line
Hmm.
managers, they think that the high performer is a high potential,
Right.
while actually 3 to 5% only of the organization are high potentials. Only one
Hmm.
Messi in the world, only one Ronaldo in the world. So these
Hmm.
people are very less and very low in number. So you cannot
Hmm.
have everyone as a high potential. That's one.
Right.
Secondly, some people avoid the quiet people in the organization. And this is a
Hmm.
big topic, by the way. I have seen organizations are extrovert organizations. So
Hmm.
they actually value only the person who talks, who mingles,
Hmm.
who socializes. But in reality, I have seen some quiet people are actually high potential because it's introversion and extroversion. It has nothing to do with your potential. So
Hmm.
sometimes the quiet people are left out from the equation because they don't
Right.
talk much, they don't mingle much, they don't socialize much. One
And that
other,
also, I think, creates a little bit of a biases, right, for managers because there's no
absolutely,
relationships. Yeah.
absolutely,
Sorry.
absolutely.
Continue.
And I
Yeah.
will talk about the bias in nomination as well. The bias in nomination, the loyalty plays a big part. I have seen
Hmm.
line managers pick the most loyal person.
Right.
And by the way, it's a human nature.
Loyal to them, right?
Yeah, of
Not to the
course.
organization
No,
sometimes so
loyal
much.
to them. So
Yeah.
most loyal to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a similarity thing. They
Yeah.
see them as they were them like 10
Hmm.
years ago. So
Hmm.
this is very important. I see you in myself, which
Hmm.
like a big question mark. That's
Hmm.
why science and questionnaires helps reduce biases as much as possible. In
Hmm.
addition to that, I have seen once assessment is done, you have made a decision. The whole life of this person is a low potential and he will never develop. And by the way, I agree. Potential is more difficult to develop versus performance. So this
Right.
is for sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
because it takes a longer time for you to develop a potential. It's a
Hmm.
trait. Are you aspirational? Are you able to grow and this and that? But that doesn't deny the fact that I have seen people were low and they move to medium and then they move to that.
Right.
Sometimes organizations do one snapshot and that's it.
Hmm.
You're doomed. You're not and you'll not be.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is one big thing as well. I have seen also reliance on one single nomination, and this is a lot in organization. They rely only on line manager.
Hmm.
They go too mechanical and they rely only on science.
Right.
Cannot be. Both are
Right.
very important. Both needs to be blended. And last one, which is very important, making
Hmm.
premature promises to the high potential people.
Hmm.
So you're a high potential,
Hmm.
you'll grow. You're a high potential, you'll get promoted. No, you cannot do that. Many reasons. Firstly, the move requires opportunities.
Right.
It requires commitment.
Right.
It requires continuation of what we saw of you.
Hmm.
Some people rely on the fact I'm a high potential now, I'll go sleep now, I'll go home, I'm done.
Hmm.
And the organization fall in the trap of making these people expect higher pay, rewards, and this. Yes, there is a high potential program that they need to be part of, but we need to be very clear in communicating to the high potential people.
Hmm.
Because you being a high potential does not guarantee you anything, but it guarantees you one thing: our intention to
Hmm.
grow you.
Hmm.
We have seen signals that we
Right.
intend to grow you. More than that, it will be very difficult and you'll be shooting yourself in the foot as an organization.
Yeah, it's more of a support is guaranteed, but the result it's a combination of multiple things, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we rely a lot on the external coaches when it comes to that, because human nature, when the line manager goes to his employee and tell him you're a high potential, he will
Hmm.
promise.
Hmm.
He will promise him stuff. He will
Hmm.
always tell him, you're the next GM, you're the next CEO, and this and that, which I have seen that a lot.
Hmm.
They want to win this person over so that they continue motivating him.
Right.
An external coach would be a bit balanced when it
Hmm.
comes to managing the expectations of this person. And the beauty about having someone external, that he also works for the organization they hire him. So he
Right.
speaks two languages. He
Hmm.
speaks the language of the high potential and he speaks the language of the organization.
Right. And there are no biases, right?
Absolutely.
Based on the relationship which a
Absolutely.
manager would have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think from high potential, you craft succession plan, correct?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
how does that work, succession planning?
Sure. We call the high potential stage uh,
Hmm.
the scanning stage. It is the
Okay.
scanning. You do scanning to the organization. So you know who is good and who can grow and who doesn't grow, or
Hmm.
who potentially wouldn't grow. I wouldn't say doesn't grow because it's a
Hmm.
very discriminating word as well.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So once you identify who your players are, this is
Hmm.
purely a people process. I
Right.
call this talent reviews. They call it scanning. They call
Hmm.
it market scanning. So there are a lot
Hmm.
of words. It's all about knowing who do you have in the house.
Right.
Then you move into succession planning. Succession
Hmm.
planning is a business driven process.
Hmm.
People come secondary. It is
Hmm.
actually there to ensure business continuity. So it's
Hmm.
not actually for people. People
Hmm.
come secondary.
Hmm.
People will join the succession planning so that we make sure that the business is continuing.
Hmm.
And in another word, so what is succession planning? I have a driver at home, I have a
Hmm.
maid, I have
Hmm.
a lady who cleans.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
To me and my wife, the driver is the most critical job at house. I can
Hmm.
live without a maid, I can
Hmm.
live without a cook, but I cannot live without a driver. This is succession planning. So you identify the most critical role in your
Hmm.
business that you always need to have a pipeline for it. You cannot
Hmm.
live one day without a driver.
Hmm.
If I take the analogy back home. So
Hmm.
this analogy helps me to identify, or this example helps me identify the
Hmm.
importance of the role that I'm looking after.
Hmm.
Exactly, this is what we ask the businesses to do. We ask
Hmm.
every business, what
Hmm.
are the critical roles that the business wouldn't live without even one day? They will
Hmm.
say one, two, three, four. These are
Hmm.
the four roles we will do succession planning for. That doesn't mean the rest will not be promoted. No, when it's
Hmm.
vacant, but you're doing that for business continuity,
All
for the
right.
house continuity if the driver is absent. So
Hmm.
for us, we have identified driver.
Hmm.
Then what
Hmm.
do? I start looking inside the house. If this
Hmm.
driver leaves me tomorrow,
Hmm.
who in the at house can be a driver?
Hmm.
Then I start looking at the scanning place. I've identified who's a high potential. I
Right.
take the best person in my point of view, and he also need to have an aspiration to be a driver,
Right.
because we also ask the person the high potential. We cannot
Right.
just put you in a job that you don't like.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we marry both of them. But
Hmm.
do we marry them or we do speculations? It's actually
Hmm.
speculations, because the reality is the driver did not leave me.
Hmm.
I'm doing that,
Hmm.
if the driver wants to leave,
Hmm.
or if the driver gets headhunted by my neighbors.
Right.
Yeah. Then what do? I start looking into the market internally.
Hmm.
I don't find any driver.
Hmm.
Then I
Hmm.
decide to hire someone
Hmm.
to be a maid but can drive. So
Hmm.
that when this driver leaves,
Hmm.
I have a substitute option of
Hmm.
someone that I bought.
Hmm.
So an action would be after the succession planning, whether I promote the driver I found and I fire the current driver because I wasn't happy with him anyways. So I mean,
Hmm.
and now I
Hmm.
find this an opportunity for, a suitable replacement. I wouldn't say fire, I lay off the
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
And or I buy talent from external because I'm lacking the driving skill in my house.
Or the aspiration,
Yes, and or the
skill, or the
aspiration, I love that.
yeah.
Or I promote the
Hmm.
maid
Hmm.
to be ready to be a driver, and I start develop her to be a driver. I give her driving classes.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So by that,
Hmm.
you are making sure that your pipeline of the
Hmm.
critical roles you have identified is
Hmm.
well followed through.
Hmm. Hmm.
How many roles in general for every organization? Usually, if you don't have specific critical roles, you go for the leadership teams.
Hmm.
So every job, every business, they
Hmm.
identify the leadership team roles as critical roles.
Hmm.
Then, as an HR person, as a talent management, I get these people all in a room. We start
Hmm.
talking about options here and there. One
Hmm.
other thing very important,
Hmm.
you want to make sure, and this is when you marry high potential and succession planning, you want to make sure that the percent of high potentials are actually in your critical roles.
Hmm.
So
Got it.
you
Yeah.
marry both together now. So you marry the scanning with the critical roles, or you make sure that the critical roles has very low risk of loss, because
Hmm.
sometimes you assess, is it high risk of loss? In the driver example,
Hmm.
I talked to my wife and she's telling me, I heard him yesterday talking negatively about us, he might leave.
Hmm.
This is a
Hmm.
high risk of loss.
Hmm.
This puts a lot of pressure on me to come up
Hmm.
with a substitute as urgent as I can.
Right.
So what if my driver is happy at home?
Hmm.
Yes, it's a critical role, but I know this guy will not leave me. Then I have
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
I have a
Hmm.
bit of time to make sure that this person is, I can develop.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
This is all speculation. He can leave me
Right.
tomorrow. But you
Right.
put a lot of insights in the exercise to make sure that it is really, in a way, realistic.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. I
Right.
hope the analogy did not confuse you of where
No.
we are. Yeah.
In fact, it's beautiful. It's very easy to understand. I think most of us have got a same analogy. I think critical roles at home. For somebody, it's a driver. For somebody, it's a cook.
Yes.
Yeah, we do have people at home as well. Those are very important for our smooth operations of our house as well. So,
Absolutely.
great analogy, in fact. Yeah. So, are there ways as well that succession planning cannot be effective or may go wrong?
Yeah. One biggest mistake I've seen in my career. So because of that driver
Mm-hmm.
is an excellent person. He has done
Hmm.
a lot more than being a driver. You
Hmm.
start get hooked up in his character versus the role. So I'll give you an example in football. I love football. So
Hmm.
Messi is the best player in the world, but
Hmm.
he is a right wing.
Hmm.
If you are going to replace Messi as a person, you will never be able to replace Messi. So
Hmm.
the issue with succession planning, sometimes you talk about the current job holder, not talk about the role.
Hmm.
So if I want to replace a driver by a driver, it's easy. I get a driver. But if I want to replace that person, it's very
Hmm.
difficult, especially if this person has been doing a fantastic job. So
Right.
mixing the job with the job holder. And
Hmm.
sometimes you get hooked up. So any club in the world will not be able to substitute Messi.
Hmm.
But they will be able to substitute a right wing.
Right.
If
Right.
they go
Right.
back to the basics of the job, it will
Hmm.
help them get a successor for it. But if they
Hmm.
go to the job holder, and by the way, not
Hmm.
only Messi, everyone
Hmm.
who's been
Hmm.
a role for 2 or 3 years, they start create their own empire, and they start
Right.
put their touches on the job
Hmm.
that it is actually additional to the job description.
Hmm.
Our role as HR people and talent management is to move the business back to the job.
Hmm.
Forget about Messi. It's not about Messi. It's the right wing we are doing succession
Right.
planning for. Yeah,
It's a job and not the job holder.
exactly. Exactly. What else? Yes, people, organizations I've seen, they think of succession planning only when a leadership role is vacant, being very reactive. So they start running after this guy's leaving. Please help us. So, I mean, they come to the HR and tell us, we're in a catastrophe. This guy's leaving. That's why succession planning is similar to demand planning in business. You do demand planning for products to make sure that you have the pipeline of the products all the time. It's exactly the same, but it's for people. So you do that as an annual process. In fact, every 6 months you recheck on the follow through. Third mistake is we do a great plan and then we forget. Then the follow through is extremely important as well. And
Right.
I think the success of succession planning is not about the template we fill. It's about the follow through of the actions we have identified. If you remember, we said that we would develop the maid to be a driver.
Right.
And who owns the development of this maid? It's the
Right.
line manager. We go to the line manager and we tell him we need to develop this person, even if this person will not be a driver. But we're
Right.
doing this speculation to make sure that the critical role will not be vacant.
Right. And the business continuity is there.
Absolutely. So
Right.
again, did you get my point? Why is it is a business continuity? It's
Right.
not really a people process. People think succession planning is a people process. No, people comes secondary. It is number one for business continuity. And then we use the scanning, the talent reviews, the high potential assessments. So we are winning as people in this process. But in reality, it's not done for us. It's done for the sake of the business continuity.
Is there a way that you measure that succession planning to? One, you said follow through, but
Yes,
anything else
follows
that we
through
do?
action completion for sure. So you start looking at your bench strengths, and this is an equation a bit complicated, but you get a percent at the end for the driver role. So the more you have ready nows, ready later, ready future, you give scores to each one, and then it tells you whether the driver job is green or yellow or red. How many greens I have out of the critical roles. So that's one big factor that you measure as a measurement tool. What else that you measure? How many high potentials? How much do I pay the critical role holders? Because now, automatically, I tell you the driver is a critical role. You need to be paying him very well. Yeah, especially if this person doesn't have already now a successor. Yeah, because it's like I will need to retain this person. If I lose him tomorrow, I'm done. So how much am I paying my critical roles and how much am I paying my high potentials? So this is one KPI that I'm looking after. Additionally, how many critical role holders have a high risk of loss? Yeah, so the driver, the maid, and that. If the three roles are critical and I have the three of them high risk of loss, then I'm gone.
Yeah.
So you also
Yeah.
need to measure that in a way. Males and females, how many of them? Males, diversity plays a big factor nowadays in every organization, and it is part of any equation. How many high
Right.
potentials do you have, males, and what's the percent of high potentials?
Right.
This and that. So, yeah, this is in a nutshell how you measure it. But in my point of view, the biggest KPI is the follow through action completion.
Because you know that it's work in progress, at least for
Exactly.
yeah. Otherwise, a good feel good kind of a filling template kind of an exercise.
Yes. And what you discover when you do the succession planning sometimes that people were very political in the high potential and the identification. That's why I say science plus line managers. Because
Right.
I have seen organizations they rely only on line managers. And when the reality comes and I start saying why this person is not becoming a driver, they say he's not good. You mentioned he's a high potential, you know? So, and then they hire from outside, which is a killer to the
Right.
organization and to the person. And for your knowledge, a big fact turnover gets really high when a new leader appointed from external organizations. So the
Right.
more you hire people internally or you promote people internally, the more it boosts the morale of everyone and it gives you a hope that I can be next. So
Right.
and so you need these kind of internal, and it's a mix. You wouldn't rely a lot in the in, but you also would balance it internal and external.
In fact, all of this will also start from recruitment, right?
Yes, yes.
It's a big role there as well, right, in recruitment to make sure that the succession from succession to talent to learning and development.
Both ways actually. So
Yeah.
recruitment can feed in succession planning, and succession planning can feed in recruitment.
Right.
Because succession planning, if they find out they don't have internal successor for the driver, they will go back
Hmm.
to recruitment and tell them, please, next time when you hire a maid,
Hmm.
get her to have some driving skills.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or hire a driver. I'm willing to pay a junior driver at home
Hmm. Hmm.
because I cannot live without a driver.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of
Both ways.
both of them. Yeah, go hand in hand. They kind of complement each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how you see in succession planning also you see a role of a coach here, coach or a mentor working together.
Yes. So one of the big actions that comes out of succession planning is the readiness of the person. How ready this person we have identified is. So if this person is ready now, then this guy is good. We can put him tomorrow in the role and that's it. But if this person is ready later, which is from 0 to 2 years, we usually put development plan for him. And this development plan is very differentiated because it's very targeted to be a driver.
Hmm.
So it is like we want to develop you to be a driver. Then we get the best coach in driving.
Hmm. But
You know,
here, what I'm thinking is when it is very target driven, you rather need a mentor, right? Who's been there probably, who understands that more. Yeah.
could be a mentor and could be when we discussed Ahmed Saied to be a driver, we found out he lacks this skill.
Hmm.
He's
Hmm.
good, but he may come across as a bit slow when he drives.
Hmm. All
Then I
right.
get a coach to make him a faster driver. So this is a very specific skill that comes out of the exercise because he's missing one thing to be that.
Right.
Mentorship is a longer term to nurture and to develop and to grow and this and that. So regardless, both of them are needed based on the need of every
Need
specific
identified.
case. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Great. So this is really a wonderful conversation, and I think we can go on for hours.
absolutely.
Is there anything you would like to share for our listeners who'd like to learn more about the talent management and also about you?
Yes, I told you about AI. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I have seen a lot of because it's becoming a trend.
Hmm.
Every
Hmm.
organization now is competing how AI to
Hmm.
adopt, how many initiatives in AI to adopt.
All right.
I have seen organizations they lack fundamentals
Hmm.
and they still want to adapt to AI. So they
Hmm.
want to reach the moon while they are actually barely touching the earth. I mean,
Hmm.
so we should use the AI for first to fix fundamentals, processes, and then we talk about the future. And
Right.
this puts a lot of confusion in the eyes of some organizations. Because as an
Hmm.
employee, I barely have my meal. You're talking about a dessert.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say AI is a dessert. If AI is helping me in my meal, then I
Hmm.
like. But
Hmm.
if it's AI about things in the future and the current process is not really fixed, I
Right.
would focus more in fixing fundamentals and then we go later on an AI approach.
Hmm. Hmm.
But don't get my point that I'm against it. It's
Hmm.
helping me a lot in talent management and I can talk ages about that. But I
Hmm.
mean the fundamentals.
Help me differentiate between fundamental and advanced. Maybe that's the opposite I can think of. But when not to use AI.
Is this a question for me?
Yeah, so I'm thinking in my head right now that when is it that in for fundamentals not to use AI? You suggest.
So I have seen a process of performance management. So I've
Mm-hmm.
done a lot of consulting in my career as well. So
Hmm.
that helped me a lot to see different models.
Right.
I've seen performance management process that
Hmm.
has a lot of holes.
Hmm.
And then the organization came and said, we want AI to help people write their objectives. It's not about writing the objective. It's about fixing the process. So I would rather fix the current process and put some ratings, definitions, competency model that is well written and the development plan and this. And then I start ask AI, how can I develop? Or how can
Get
I
it.
put a proper KPI in place? So this is
Hmm.
an example that I have seen myself, by the
Hmm.
way. So it's not just I'm making it up. I have seen.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then they start talking about how AI can help you reach the moon.
Hmm.
Guys, fundamentals of talent management is actually performance. If when you perform, you get rightly rewarded,
Hmm.
objective, and get a
Hmm.
proper development plan. In my point of view, these are the means. AI
Right.
now is like a dessert.
Right. And I also feel that I'm in a consultative mindset. Keeping that at the top here is
Yes,
more important to really understand the fundamentals than really working on the advanced
absolutely,
processes for the organization. And I think
absolutely,
when you get to the ground, do it yourself, learn about the process, learn about the organization, you're able to really understand and have a clarity for yourself
absolutely,
also.
absolutely, absolutely.
Right? Because I've also seen a lot of AI driven work, but I don't know what have I created. Yeah, that's a situation as well. So, and Ahmed, if somebody would like to contact you and get in touch with you to talk to you about any consulting work, or if they have a
Well,
question about talent management, what's the
very
best way to
happy to
reach
do
out to
that.
you?
It's my passion. I'm been working in talent management because it's the area I love. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you've seen the passion.
Right, right, right,
Sometimes
right.
it's a bit overdone, but I hope it wasn't in the call. No?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So please reach out. I can give you my phone number later on. I can give you my email and my LinkedIn account as well.
Sure,
I can always share that, even in an email right after. And it is
sure.
actually my pleasure, and I've also enjoyed it so much.
Thank you, Emma. Then we're going to post all that information in our YouTube description so that people can reach out, especially your LinkedIn profile. I think people can connect with you and reach out and ask
Absolutely.
anything they need
Would
to.
love that.
Ahmed, it has been really a pleasure talking to you today. And
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to catching up again
Yes, please.
soon, of course,
Since
since
we're
we are in
both in
Dubai.
UAE, yes, let's
Yeah,
have coffee. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.